Thanks for tuning in to SPORTSWOMEN Australia, a podcast celebrating both the rising and bona fide stars of Australian women in sport, plus the female power brokers making it happen behind the scenes.
You're joined by your two hosts, myself, Amanda Cellante, and Tiffany Cherry, who's joining us from Nashville. Today we have a dual code sportswoman. She was captain of the Australian women's volleyball team, and now she's turned her hand to AFLW representing the Melbourne Demons. We've got Shae Sloane.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Shae.
Thank you for having me.
As
I did mention, you were volleyball captain. I'm actually really interested to know how you got into volleyball, because girls in Melbourne, the most common sports for girls to play are, basketball, netball, soccer, even tennis. So how did you get into volleyball?
Yeah, well, I grew up playing all those sports. I did little athletics, played netball, played basketball, and as soon as I started school at Upwey High, volleyball was the main sport there, and they had a really good program, and I was a bit bored at lunchtime one day, and a mate said, let's go and try out for the volleyball team, and kind of went from there, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made that lunchtime.
Yeah, so the progression from just playing at lunchtime with your mates at school and things like that, how do you go from there to then becoming captain of the Australian women's team? Like, obviously there's progression and development through there.
Yeah, definitely. It was a really long process. It started in year 7, and obviously just playing for Upwey High. Within Victoria, there's a state school championships, and then at the end of the year, there's the national championships as well, that schools from all over the country come together in at MSAC and play this huge tournament, and did that for a few years. And once I hit about 15, I was asked to go along to a camp and try out for the junior Australian team and then the youth Australian team, and kind of went through those pathways and was at a lot of talent identification camps and things like that. And just kept on going through that, and eventually made it into the senior team and played a few years there before I was named captain. But obviously that was something that was so exciting for me and something that such a big honour.
Hey, Shae, for any of our young aspiring volleyball listeners out there, what's the international volleyball scene like?
It's great fun. It was volleyball got me travelling all over the world in the end. I think took my first overseas trip when I was 14 or 15, and we went to Manila in the Philippines. And obviously that was a bit of a shock as a 14-year-old, seeing that the way that they live over there. But volleyball definitely exposed me to some really amazing countries and places that I probably wouldn't have been to. But volleyball's huge everywhere except for in Australia. I think you go to the Asian countries, or we played a tournament in Colombia and we were treated like celebrities over there, and everyone, wants your photo, wanted your autograph and things like that. So it was it's very different overseas, and a lot of the girls at the moment are playing on European contracts and actually being paid to play volleyball overseas as well. So there's a heap of opportunity in the sport all over the world, and hopefully it can continue to grow like it is at the moment.
We've got the Olympics in Tokyo 2020 next year, Shae. What are Australia's chances of making the Olympic Games in women's volleyball?
Yeah, it's really exciting at the moment. The girls just recently competed in the Asian Senior Champs, and they've managed to book themselves a spot in the Olympic Qualifier, which will be held in January next year. So I think they're the first team in a really long time that has actually made it to that qualification tournament. So it's a really exciting time for Australian volleyball, and I know they're all training a lot at the moment and really hoping to put their best games forward in that tournament and give themselves every opportunity to qualify for those Olympics.
So back to you in 2016, as you said, you were the captain of the team, probably at the most elite level that you could have been in that sport. At the end of 2016, you decided to step away from volleyball. How do you go from being in such an incredible position to deciding, to step away from that?
Yeah, it was one of the hardest decisions I have ever made because of that exact reason. I felt like I was really achieving in the sport. I was playing the best that I've ever played in volleyball. Our team was starting to really come together and doing some really good things. And then I actually took a step back, and my partner and I decided that we wanted to go travelling. And I'd kind of spent 15 years playing full-time sport, working full-time or studying full-time and everything like that. And I kind of wanted to live a little bit of a life, I suppose. So I kind of made that decision, and it took me about 6 months to make it and about 6 months to have the conversation with my coach, which was still one of the hardest conversations I've ever had as well. And I always thought that I was going to come back to volleyball. I thought the travel would be a really good sort of break to go away and experience. I'd seen a lot of the world, but I'd never actually travelled it, and to go away and get that experience, and then to come back, and the program had just moved to Canberra as well. So I saw that there was a really good future in volleyball and things like that. But while I was travelling, I got contacted by the footy club as well. So that's kind of where the next pathway of sport kind of came into it as well. But I suppose for me, I felt like I'd achieved a lot in volleyball within Australia. If I was going to continue to play volleyball, I kind of thought I had to either move to Canberra or try and get a contract overseas, which at that point in my life I wasn't quite ready to make one of those two quite drastic changes sort of thing. So I'd had a pretty good lifestyle set up in Melbourne, had a really good full-time job. My partner, he and his family are all here, so the idea of moving overseas to play or moving to Canberra just didn't quite work out for me. So I thought it's a good time to stop, have a break, travel, and then see what happens.
So the Melbourne Demons come calling, Shae. How did you use your volleyball skills to transition into an AFLW defender?
Yeah, I get asked this one a little bit actually, and I find it quite a tough one to answer, but I think what I've thought over time is, I suppose, a lot of the aerial things that have come into play. So a lot of the spiking and setting and a lot of skills within volleyball that I had were above your head. And I suppose a lot of that comes into footy through marking and spoiling and that side of things, and the agility in volleyball as well. It's a lot of quick movements around a small area, and you have to put that into play on a footy field as well when the ball's near. You've got to be able to move pretty quickly. So I suppose they're the three main ones. And I used to be a runner when I was younger, and I've always enjoyed staying fit and healthy and doing a lot of running, and I suppose that fitness came through as well. Yeah, when I started playing football, which was really handy.
What about, Shae, preparing your body? We know that a number of the cross code players, especially those from basketball, and you can throw volleyball in there, netball, that sort of fast stop-start sport, who then come into the AFLW, and then you add the twisting component, can tend to do their ACLs, that knee injuries and damage. The AFLW is doing screening, we know that. But how did you prepare yourself from that perspective to try and minimise the risk of damage?
Yeah, so like you said, the AFL are running some screening programs and things like that, and our physios and strength coaches were running a 15 to 20 minute session before every training of just ACL or knee rehabilitation sort of exercises, I suppose. So a lot of jumping and landing and twisting and quick movement sort of things, and then we'd do it either in the gym or out on the field as well. So they've got a really good program set up at the footy club to try and prevent these injuries from happening, and trying to strengthen us as much as possible so that these things, don't happen. So it was good that those sort of things were put into place. And then obviously you're doing your gym sessions as well, which is strengthening everything else around your knees too. But unfortunately it didn't work for me in the first year, but I've been doing that again all this year, and feeling really good about how strong my knee is now. So So you sort of just touched on it there. So, in 2018 you were drafted to the Casey Demons. You played with Casey Demons for 6 or 7 matches before making your AFLW debut. Yep. In that first match is when you went down with the ACL injury. Can you tell us what actually happened and what went through your mind at that point? Did you know how severe it was? What happened? Yeah, so no, I had no idea how severe it was. I think I'd never done an injury like that before. So I remember running for the ball, launching to mark it, landing and just feeling a pop and hearing a weird sort of noise in my knee. And then my knee just kind of seized and I couldn't stand up or anything. But as soon as I moved and stood up, I felt nothing, and I thought that I was fine, and sort of ran off the ground and went and got tests with the physios and felt no pain. I wasn't stressed about it or anything like that. I was like, I've just hyperextended my knee or something. So I was pretty hopeful, and then went in and had the MRI the next morning and was still pretty confident. Walked in, saw the doctor, and she told me that I had actually done my ACL, and I was unbelievably shocked at the time. I remember I didn't show any emotion. My partner and the recruiter were sitting out in the waiting room, and I said to the doctor, I'm not going to be able to tell them. Like, I need you to call them in here and let them know, sort of thing, because I don't quite know how to explain what's just happened. But yeah, I remember thinking, like, I've never done major injuries. I've always done strange little injuries, like I've broken a knuckle or I've hurt a weird bone in my foot and things like that, but never have I done anything that would require surgery and that side of things. So I thought I'd just done another strange little injury to my knee. But yeah, it was the ACL. And obviously from there, Todd, our recruiter, said to me that, Melbourne would support me fully through all of this, which was really good to hear. Probably 2 minutes within hearing that I'd done it. And from there, that kind of gave me the motivation to start rehabbing straight away, do everything that I could to make sure I was back fit and ready to go for this upcoming 2020 season.
So where are you at now with your knee injury?
Yeah, I'm about 8 months post-surgery, and I'm back doing pretty well everything, which is really nice. And it's been a really smooth sort of recovery. I've had no setbacks with my knee, which is great. Did a little calf injury in there and a bit of a back injury as well, just getting back into the movements and everything like that. But really minor things compared to what it could have been with an ACL. But I've had such amazing support, especially from our physio Kathleen and the strength coaches down at the footy club. And I took 6 months off work 6 weeks off work as soon as I had my surgery, and really spent those 6 weeks just doing everything that I could in those early days of ACL rehab to make sure that I was getting it back to the best that it could be. But yeah, for now I'm back full running with everyone, doing most of the training, and the strength and conditioning coaches are enjoying hitting me with the bags and everything like that, getting me ready for some contact. So it's been a lot of fun, actually, rehab. I've really enjoyed it, and I would have much rather been out playing, but it actually allowed for me to really strengthen my body and do some coaching throughout the year as well down at KC Demons, so kind of get a bit more of an understanding on the game of football and kind of see it from a different point of view while rehabbing and being ready to get back to play.
Shae, some people may know, but most probably don't know, that your older brother is Rory Sloane. Obviously, he's the star of the Adelaide Crows. I want to know, what was it like having the kick in the backyard? Was there a lot of tackling went on? Was it really competitive? What was it like growing up with your brother and footy and sport?
Yeah, so Rory's one of my two older brothers, so I have an older one again, Dylan, as well, and we're all very competitive people, and yeah, we love going out the front and kick to kick and playing some footy, and the local footy oval was just around the corner as well, so it was definitely competitive, and two older brothers didn't really care that I was the little sister, and we're all pretty rough with each other, which was a bit of fun. But we used to play a good game down in the lounge room with, kicking the ball through the door frame, and I'll never forget the day that we're all playing and I was wearing a skirt like the girl that I was, and was wearing a skirt and had a kick and ripped the whole back of the skirt. So I think that was kind of the point where I decided I needed to put some shorts on to play footy and be one of the brothers for a little bit as well. But no, it was a lot of fun growing up with two older brothers, and they're unbelievably supportive of me and everything that I do, and yeah, I've been really lucky to grow up with them.
So did you play footy at like a grassroots level as well? Did you play for a local club?
Yeah. So I played around about 50 games with Upwey Tacoma, the junior footy club there, which was really good. I started playing halfway through a season, I can't remember the age, but as soon as I turned that age in May, I went and joined up and begged Mum and Dad to let me play, and did the first half of the season and actually played in a team with Rory, which was really cool, and Dad was the runner, and it was a real little family affair, I suppose. But yeah, I loved playing footy as a junior, and I played up until girls weren't allowed to play in the league anymore. And at that point, I was taking athletics pretty seriously, and then volleyball popped up as well. But I played football for as long as I could as a girl, and loved every minute of it, and learnt a lot from that. And I was just one of the boys when I was younger. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of my mates played in there as well. So always wanted to be able to play football professionally. I suppose that was a dream when I was 9-10 years old, that one day maybe I could play football, and it was pretty exciting when that opportunity actually came about. But yeah, definitely started at the footy club, and yeah, it was a great way to grow up.
Upwey Tacoma have quite a good girls program now. I played against them last year for Baronia, and they beat us by 190 points. So I'm not really a big fan of Upwey Tacoma, but
yeah, no, a few of my mates actually play in that team now, and it's really cool to see that all these footy clubs are coming back with girls teams as well, and they're being so supportive of the women's teams, and it's exciting to see how many people are starting to do it, not just as a social thing, but trying to get fit and actually taking it really competitively, which is great.
How much impact does Rory have with you and your footy? Like, do you and talk to him about your footy, or you got questions, or is it something a topic that you don't really go to now that you're both playing professional football?
Yeah, we don't really talk too much football. We obviously check in with each other and make sure we're both okay and doing all right with everything. But yeah, I think we both talk football enough when we're around the footy club and around the people that we do play with, and he understands how much support you have around a footy club and how much knowledge there is as well. So I get a lot of advice from the people at Melbourne and he gets a lot from Adelaide, and yeah, we don't really need to share too much about it, but obviously we're both really supportive of what each other are doing. And I think when we catch up, it's more about family time in the end and just actually having those conversations that, he's been in Adelaide for 11 years now. So yeah, when we catch up, it's more just how brothers and sisters would generally catch up and not talking too much sport.
You talk about, checking in to make sure you're okay. It's been a pretty tumultuous time, Crows, since really, if you go back a couple of years, losing the 2017 grand final. How has that affected Rory?
Yeah, he's fine with it. Obviously, it's not exactly where he'd like to be, and that grand final year was obviously what everyone plays AFL footy for, to make it to that grand final. And we were actually talking the other week about the feeling around grand final week and how much fun it actually is. And he said it's one of the best weeks in football he's ever had. So obviously, as a player, that's exactly what you want to be doing every year that you're playing football. But yeah, he's pretty aware that, each year they just have to keep on reassessing what they're doing and get better and start again in a pre-season. So yeah, like I said, we don't talk too much about footy, and I can't really comment on what's happening at the Crows at the moment. I've got no idea, but yeah, Roz is pretty happy with his new little boy, and that's kind of taken a lot of the attention at the moment.
What about for you and for Melbourne, both in the AFLW program and the AFL? I think if you think about the AFLW, the first 2 seasons were pretty good for the women, finishing third place, and the men were really good last year with finals performance. But the last season for both of the teams really was disappointing. How do you go back and resurrect and improve and get to the ultimate goal? Like what are you girls doing? And maybe even if you talk about the men's program as well, but what's going on to change that and to climb back up the ladder?
Yeah, I think with the women, we kind of looked back at last year and it was a pretty good season. It was just kind of the last game was a bit disappointing, and obviously with the conference system last year, we were pretty unlucky with where we finished. Yeah, we're just kind of reassessing this year. We've kept on most players from last year, and a lot of players have been playing down at VFL at the KC Demons as well. So just kind of continuing to play the game style that we want. We've been practicing it all year. So hopefully that can come into play. But I think, we did take a little bit to reassess at the end of last season and really make sure that we come into this year fit, healthy, ready to go, and, ready to put into place exactly what we want to do in such a short time. So, we're just waiting for pre-season to start now. I think everyone's really eager to get back into it. It has been a long off season. But you do, at the end of every season, you always reassess and wonder why you guys haven't made the grand final sort of thing. So I think that's something that we'll all come back in really eager for as the 2020 season gets underway.
If we could just jump back to you and your knee injury, do you have any tips or advice that you would give to somebody who's listening about how to prevent an ACL, like based off what you've learnt from what your experience was? Because, there would be a lot of, female listeners who are concerned, because you do see the statistics about female ACLs compared to male ACLs. So do you have any tips that you would give to people in terms of like being physically prepared, but then also perhaps like mentally if you are struggling with an injury? Do you have any tips for people?
I can't comment too much on how to prevent it from happening. I think it's one of those injuries that we are seeing even in the men's season this year. It is still happening to the fittest people in the country sort of thing. So I'm not quite sure on that, but I know after rehab this year, I've spent so much time in just strengthening all the muscles around my knee and really making sure that, everything that you do, you put a lot of time into, just building up the muscles around it and doing exercises that you may encounter within your sport. So I think that has then translated to mentally. At the moment, I'm jumping and landing and changing directions, and that's how I did the injury. So I think if you do have one of those injuries, making sure you're doing the things that did actually cause it in the first place and getting yourself strong and confident that you can do those movements still. But in relation to preventing it, no physio or anything like that,
enough.
so I wouldn't like to comment on that. But definitely throughout rehab, just doing everything that the professionals say and that the physios give you, and getting the confidence back straight away has been really important for me, and it's made me be able to come back a lot quicker than I initially thought. So,
with volleyball, is that chapter definitely closed for you, or is there, a small part of you that still thinks, oh, maybe one day I could go back to that or look into it again, and maybe as a coach or something? Or
the playing chapter's definitely closed. I think I'm absolutely loving playing football, and it's still early days in football as well, and I still have so much to learn, and I'm pretty determined to keep on pursuing with this. But volleyball is definitely closed from a playing point of view, but from coaching, I've loved coaching football this year and being part of the coaching team, and it's something that I've always enjoyed doing, coaching, so I definitely wouldn't write that off, but probably at a more junior sort of level, I think, and being a teacher as well, I love working with kids, so it's something that I wouldn't mind going back and giving back to the sport at a junior level, eventually down the track. But obviously at the moment with full-time work, football, all that side of things, a relationship, a family, all that sort of stuff, it's pretty busy to even look at doing anything else at the moment. But definitely one day I wouldn't mind.
Shae, we've briefly touched on it, but I want to have a deeper dive into your thoughts on the two-tier AFLW conference system, whether you like it, and if you don't, what your suggestion would be.
I think the conference system is necessary at the moment, with the amount of teams that are playing in the league and then the amount of time that we actually have to play. I think we do need to have that system in place. At the moment, though, I don't think there's not too much structure around how the conferences are actually put into place. I think from my understanding at the moment, it does go off the ladder the previous year, and that's about it. And it would be really nice to see a bit more of a structure put around it, I suppose, about looking at a few years in a row and looking at the player movement, I suppose, that goes on, and who's drafted and who isn't, and the draft picks that teams have, and just a little bit more structure around it to make sure it is really evenly done. I think we've seen such a difference in the ladder finishes throughout the 3 years of the AFLW that you can see how quickly teams do turn around within a year. And then if you put into a conference with a team that's really bouncing back quite quickly, it may not be as even and fair as it could be. So I think that would be something that the AFL will look into in the future, and I know that's something that has been brought up over the past few weeks as well. So I think the conferences, I think they'll work as long as it is continued to look at in that real structured sort of way.
Shae, in the next 3 or 4 years, you would probably think that every AFL team will have an AFLW team. Once that happens, would you like to see a system where we have those teams that are playing in the AFL exactly the same in the AFLW as a pre or a post match, something very similar to what we see in cricket at the moment in the T20 and even in Hockey 1, which is just launched?
Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing. I think that's the vision that we as players all have at the moment, and that's something that we would absolutely love to see. And, obviously at the moment the AFLW is growing and it is continuing to develop year on year. So if it gets to that while I'm still playing, I would be really, really happy about it. And I think that's obviously the vision that everyone has for this league, is that's what they want it to get to. Everyone wants it to get to a full-time league where women are being paid a full-time wage to play the sport as well, which would be fantastic. But for now, I think, we're doing really well with the way that we are playing and the effect that we're having on the grassroots football as well. But, to be able to play as a pre-game to the AFL club would absolutely be the dream that we all want to get to in the next few years.
So then, Shae, you've just touched on the equal pay, but let's put that aside. If there's one other thing that you could change that you think would improve AFLW, what would it be?
Yeah, not so much equal pay. I didn't mean that when I said that. I think it's more so just a full-time wage for women to be playing sport again. I think at the moment we all work full-time or we're studying and that sort of thing, and I think to be able to do this professionally and full-time and earn a wage that can be sustainable for us to continue to live the lives that we're living at the moment, that would be amazing. Not so much equal pay to what the men are doing, because obviously that's taken a really long time for them to get where they are at the moment, I suppose. So it would be great to get there eventually, but I think short term it would be nice to have a full-time wage while playing AFLW. But one more thing to change. It would be great to get the season to a full season where we play everyone once. I think that, when you're playing in a competition, you want to play every team, and once you've played every team, you really know where you stand as a team and where you fit and that side of things, and it really makes you feel like you've earned your spot in the finals once you've played everyone and kind of proven yourself to every team. So I think that would be an amazing thing to get to eventually, is if however many teams there are within the league, if we can play everyone once, that would be the perfect sort of outcome for the AFLW.
One thing that they say that is slowing the development of the Women's League down is the fact that there's not a depth of talent, is a quote that I've read. What would you say the difference is playing, you've played at local level, you've played at VFL and you've played at AFLW level. What's the difference between those abilities? Is it a really stark difference or is it quite similar?
There is a little bit of a difference, I think, from between VFL and AFL. It's getting smaller and smaller at the moment, and I think it's just because the league is still so new and, people are just coming out of the woodwork again to start playing football. And obviously there's people who have been playing for so long who've really set the benchmark of the standard that we need to be getting to. And, I think it's just going to be, it's just a matter of time before that level continues, to get smaller and smaller. I think it will get there really soon, and you can see the amount of women that are actually playing football now is massive, and it's bound to, continue to grow, and people are going to continue to put in, off the field as well. You develop your football skills, but you also need to, keep fit, be strong, be within the gym and things like that. So I think there is still a bit of a difference at the moment, but I think it's definitely shrinking every year that the seasons continue to go. So hopefully not too much longer before there's not too much of a difference and there is a lot more players to pick from.
So Shae, you were the captain in the Australian volleyball team and now you've come over to Melbourne. Do they view you as a leader amongst the group? Because we know you've got Elise O'Day and Shelley Scott are the current captains. Do you foresee that one day you might potentially be in the leadership group, or are Melbourne trying to develop you into that leader because you've obviously got those skills there?
I think leadership's something that I do kind of bring with me wherever I go. It happened in volleyball, it comes with teaching, and then obviously it's something that, just comes quite naturally to me within the footy club as well. And I think last year was a lot about me getting used to playing football and being around the group and getting to know everyone. And I think I bring leadership qualities to my area in the defending sort of area in the footy club. Not so much something that they're trying to mould, but I think it's something that we'll continue to tap into throughout the year. And I think it's something that I love to do, and it comes quite naturally as I play. So we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose, but it is something that I'd be really interested in. But again, it's something that just happens naturally without the actual title of anything as well.
One final one from me, Shae. You get probably the recruit of the year coming back in for 2020 for Melbourne in your skipper Daisy Pearce after the birth of her twins, which is pretty phenomenal. How's she tracking, and how much of a difference do you think that's going to make to Melbourne's season next year?
It's so exciting getting Days back. I was really excited when I got recruited to Melbourne and knew that I would be playing with Daisy, and then she came out and told us all that she was pregnant, which I was so happy for her about, but also really disappointed that I wouldn't be able to play with her. So really looking forward to being on a team with Days, and she's back training, she's doing really well, and she's just such a good person to have around the footy club. I think everyone sees the way that she is on the media and the way that she speaks, and just her presence alone is enough to kind of make everyone want to join her and be on board with her and really perform. So I'm really excited to have her back, and I think she's pretty excited to be back as well. And it's just amazing, like she's had twins, and I think she had them in Feb, so she's back out doing most things again, which is pretty incredible. And it's exciting to see how far she can go after having them.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Shae. It's been a real pleasure to hear about your volleyball career and now your AFLW career. If people want to follow you on social media, what's the best way that they can do that?
I'm just on Instagram at Shae Sloane. Nice and simple. So, it's good. Thank you very much for having me. It's been fun.
And you can follow us too at Sportswomen Australia on Instagram and Facebook, and on Twitter at Sportswomen AU.
Thanks so much, Shae. Really, really appreciate your time coming on the podcast. And Amanda, thanks for joining me over the phone. I'll be back next week. See you then.
Thanks, Tiff. And you can join us next week for another star-studded guest.